Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Nedarim daf Ayin Hey. We're going to begin in the middle of Ayin Hey and Aleph by the new Mishnah. Masnisin ha'omer la'ishto. The person says to his wife, Kol ha'nedarim shetidoiri. All the nedarim in which I will make, mekan v'ad shetava memoko imploini, from the time that I go to such and such a place and come back, harahin kayomin. So we say that I'm going to be mekayim all of them. In other words, if she is the one that makes a neder, so he is going to do hakama. He's going to verify them, even though he doesn't know about them. Lo mer klum. That situation is nothing. Says Rashi, the nedarim shel bolo oilam ein yochel kayim, because these are nedarim in which didn't happen yet. There's the nedarim shel bolo olam. You cannot do hakama on it. That seems to be. Again, that's the shita which apparently everyone holds like. So look in the Ran. From now, he doesn't say from miyom zeh, from this day. His das is only from the time that he leaves. Why not? Says the Ran, we're concerned that while he's still there, Tidr Nedarim, so she still make Nedarim, she ratza b'kiyuman. So the Ran makes an interesting diak. It says that it's because he didn't say from like right now, but rather when I leave. So therefore, this is not going to take effect on any of the nedarim that she would have made while he's still there until he leaves. Harahin kayamin, so we say lo amar klum. The dafka in afara amar belezer mufar mishum kavachaymer. Okay. So apparently, we're going to see a machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer is going to say that this type of action works for hafara, but even he will say it does not work for hakama, as the Mishnah is going to say now. Harahin mufarin. Rabbi Eliezer amar mufar. Chacham amar ein mufar. So Rabbi Eliezer holds that even though he cannot do hakama in this matter, but hafara does work. Okay, so fine. So let's understand, why does Rabbi Eliezer say you could do hafara? So I'm Rabbi Eliezer. He says im heifen nedarim. So as I'm saying that he has the ability to be made from nedarim, Shabo l'chlal iser, so lo yofer nedarim shelo bo l'chlal iser, says the Ran, es shaba l'kayim nedarim she'elu, that he wishes to remove that which is already chal. That's shabo l'chlal iser, things that already apply. So we know that he has the ability to remove things that she already did. So why wouldn't we say that he should be able to remove things that she will do? So Amalo, how are you Omer Ishaya Kimena v'Ishaya Paranu? So the pasuk equates hakama and hafara. Eshabal chal hakim balachal hafer. Lo balachal hakim lo balachal hafer. Anything that you could do hakama on, you could do hafara. Things you can't do hakama, you can't do hafara. And therefore says the Ran, lo balachal hakim. Nedarim shelo chalu, a neder which did not become chal, lo b'lachal hafer. Afagav deika kavachaymer bal karchach hekish in a kosev. So it only works to be mefer only once the neder was made and was chal. So if the neder was made and the neder is chal, once it kicks in, then we say that you could be made for it. But it has to exist. You can't be made for something that was not made yet, and something which is not chal. So therefore, that's the reason why he holds you cannot be made for it. Just like you can't do hakama in this way, you also cannot do a far in this way. Okay, so iboilu. So now we're going to have a question that's going to carry over into the next daf. Rabbi Eliezer. Now, according to Rabbi Eliezer, he holds, even though a person cannot do hakama, he holds hafara can be done. Even in this situation where she did not yet make a neder, and she did not yet, it wasn't chal. do we almost say that in this situation, the hafara works? The question is, Rabbi Lezer Mechel Cholin, do we say that when she eventually makes this neder, that it will be chal, and then, let's say, immediately afterwards, ubotolin, and then, because you could be made for it, it gets removed? Oh, dilma luchol and klal. Or do we say, the fact that you did this hafara, we're going to say that as soon as she makes this neder, it's like the neder didn't work. There was no neder to begin with. Now, according to Rabbi Lezer, there should be no nafkamina in the actual reality, because since he holds you could be made for her it doesn't matter. It's going to not exist, either now or a second later. The question is, as we're going to see, not regarding him, but the nafkamina will be regarding someone else. Let's look at the Ran. So he says, O Dilma, since you did the hafara before the neder like doesn't even exist. So my nafkamina, as we continue Ayin Hamid Beis, can go into atfis achrina bahade nidra. So someone says Rashi can go in shenadra benazir. Let's say she says she's a nazir. The amra and then someone says harini nazira. So again, regarding a neder, she says I'm a nazir. And Nazira, b'shama ishach v'omer v'ani kamokach. Just like she, I also wish to be. So again, we know that the husband has the ability to do the hafara, and it gets removed. The question is there a neder at all, so that hatfasa will work, that the other person who did this connection to this woman's neder, if we say it's chal, even though it gets removed a second later, have it tfisasa, then it's still considered to be a tfisa. Therefore, the second person is in fact a nazir. The fact that he did hafara, it's now that she later makes a neder, it was never chal at all. So there's no substance, namely that there's no neder at all, and therefore you can't do atfasa on nothing. So what's the din? So let's look at the Ran. The Ran says down here, the atmas achrina b'hadin nidra k'gon shenadra b'nazir v'lo'achar v'yemer v'ani kamoha. Okay, skipping one more line. Umakshi hacha v'afil tema chaylin ubatlin. Even according to the one who says it does work, that she has even for, let's say, a second, and this neder tzchal, and then he's mavatal it. Heichimatzi matvis. Still, the Ran asks, how would hatfasa work there either? My shnam. We learned toward the beginning of Masechta Daf Yud Aleph, Heichad Amanach Basar Shlomim. There's a very long sugi over there. A person left Basar Shlomim, L'achar Zrikas Damim, after the Zrika was already done, which means now that meat is mutter. Kamei Uvihitvis Basar Acher, and you do it fasa with that a different type of meat. Remember Zeh Kazeh. The boil one, we asked the question over there, do we say that he's talking about before the Zrikas Adam, in which that original Basar Shlomim was Aser, and therefore is a good hatfas of Aser, or the Batera, the Hashta Kamatvis for Shari. Or maybe we look at what it is right now. And right now, Achar Zrikas Adam, you could eat this meat, and therefore it's not hatfasa. Maskana, the Batera Kamatvis. We end up saying that it's Bahatera Kamatvis. So over there, we see that it doesn't make any difference what it was. We just look at the reality. So therefore, the reality is, even though it's true, it was chal, but then it was mefer, so therefore he shouldn't be able to be matvis. So equal memer, that's a kash of the Ran. The low dummy, the shani hasam over there, the yomer zeh kazeh. Since you said this is exactly like this, v'shamachi amar de kamohu shehu zeh achshav kaimer. You're saying the way it is right now. Achshav, that's the language of the Ran. She says, I wish to be a nazir. So in that situation, because it's a different language, it's not the mashma ois is not on hashta or achshav. Okay, I in the Ran. Nonetheless, we have this question. So let's look at TV 21. We're not going to see the maskana, but this is what I wrote. If someone heard this neder and was matvis and said vegamani, if it isn't chal, so it doesn't work for him either. Okay, we're going to see maskana. We're going to say it isn't chal at all. All right, we'll see from how we learn that tomorrow. Now, Tashma. So let's try to answer this question. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer said that through the means of a kal v'chomer, he learned that you could do hafara. Im hefer nedarim shebol chal iser, or yafer nedarim shebol chal iser. It makes sense because if we say there's a neder and therefore she's usher to do something, and that is strong, and hafara removes that, so shouldn't hafara be able to remove something that doesn't exist? So shema min lo. It must be a raya that it's not here. It wasn't that it was here, and then he was mavatal it. Then that's the same thing. That's a case of shabol chal iser. So it must be the fact that he says shalobol chal iser. He's basically saying it's nothing. So mikatani shenin boyin shalobou katani adayin lo bou. She didn't make the neder yet, but when she does, it may indeed be chal. So it's not necessarily a raya based on that language. Tashma. Amrulhen Rabbi Eliezer. Ma b'makom she'ein meifer nidrei atzmo mishenadar. So when a person says the Ran k'dechsev v'yachal davaro, that you cannot remove your own neder, aval cherem moicholin lo, you can go to someone else to have that removed. Meifer nidrei atzmo. Okay, so ma b'makom she'ein meifer nidrei atzmo mishenadar. We know that when you make a neder, you cannot remove it yourself. You have to go to somewhere else. So, meifer nidrei atzmo, in a situation where you could remove it, ad shelo yidor, before you make a neder. So, makom shemeifer nidrei ishto mishetidor. So, when it comes to your wife, in which when she already made a neder, we know that you could do hafara, edodin shiafar nidrei ishto ad shelo tidor. So certainly you should be able to remove the neder before she did so. Look in the Ran. Someone doesn't want to keep his neder. Yamad b'Rosh Hashanah. Kol nedarim shani asad lidar yu b'teilin. We say kol nidre, any neder that I will make is batal. And l'char, we're saying it must work. So what do we see? Interestingly enough, when it comes to your own neder that you made, so you can't remove it, but you need someone else to remove it. But we see by kol nidre that things, a future neder, you could do yourself. So in this situation, when it comes to a person, so we see a neder that doesn't exist, we're more lenient with. So therefore, when it comes to your wife, in which a husband has the right to be able to make for a neder that she makes, right now, he could have it removed. So if it's a neder that she will in the future make, certainly she should be able to remove. So my love, the ishto doma delay. We're talking about the wife is comparable to this person on Kol Nidre on Rosh Hashanah. It says Rosh Hashanah on Yom Kippur. Mahu shlochaylin af ishto namidoli chaylin. We're saying that just like we're making this declaration that it's considered nothing. It's like lo sharirin lo kayamin, right? It means nothing. So too over here, it's the same thing. Says the Ran, Mahu deloy chaylin, di'i havi chaylin, because if it was chal, havi tzarech heter chacham. Then you would need to go to a chacham. Kol nidru wouldn't work. Af ish do navi deloy chayli klal. So on this, the Ran on the Gemara answers, lo, haknisa v'haknisa. Each has its own set of laws. Each has its own set of laws. Okay. So, and the Ran says, even though there is a kal v'chomer over here, nonetheless, it's fine. So he says, v'kasha be'enai, says the Ran, v'ligmer nami mekal v'chomer didei, shel yichaylu nidri ishto klal. Why don't you learn out from here that the nedarim of wife shouldn't be chal at all, kashem shein chol nidri atzmo. Just like, again, your nedarim don't work. When it comes to you making a neder, hainu time of the heicha, the masni mikar, you made a condition originally, well, chayil, the neder is not chal at all. Mishum dekivan to shachach tanoi, b'shas nidro, since you forgot the condition at the time of the neder, habile neder b'tois. It's like a mistake. It's not a neder b'tois. Okay. So, we're still trying to get to the answer over here. So, Tashma. Rabbi Eliezer. So again, Rabbi Eliezer, you hold that the husband could do hafara on a neder that will eventually be made. And the question is, was it that the neder was chal, and then he removes it, or just was nothing? So ma mikveh. When it comes to a case of a mikveh, shemal es atamein metumasan, we know that a person is tameh. You go to a mikveh, you become tahar. In matzel al hataharim mulatame. However, it's not matzel, someone who's tahar from becoming tameh. In other words, you could become tameh later after you leave the mikveh. So it's true, a mikveh is great, because if you're tameh, you can go into the mikveh and become tahar. But now that you've left the mikveh, you're no longer going to say, okay, so I'm tahar for the rest of my life. No, you can still become tameh. So Adam, shein males at tameh and metumasan, when it comes to a person, that we don't say this, that a person can somehow remove like a mikvah tuma from that person. Eno din hu shlo yatzel al hatarin mulatame. So you should say the same thing, that he has no ability to be able to remove someone who is tar from ever becoming tameh. So in other words, the mikvah shows it's easier to make a person pure who's tameh, but not in the future to prevent them from becoming tameh again. So certainly when it comes to a person who can't make a person who has the tumah currently to be removed, certainly he cannot prevent it from happening in the future. So shema mino lo chaylin. So we see from here it's not chal. Now this needs obviously a little bit of work. What exactly is this raya? So let's look, starting off in the let's see. There's a lot in the Rashi over here. Let's go straight to the Ran. Hach kach girsa b'mixas asfarim perish harav v'baruch zal b'hachi yamer lo Rabbi Eliezer heichi danta kavachomer. Say, how can you learn this kavachomer? This was the whole question, right? Sheyoser hu roy lizbatel mashul chal. That you're saying that you can be mavatel something which doesn't exist right now, but in the future you could, right? As we continue this Ran, Isudai adayin mimashik varchal mikvad yochiach. How is a mikvah going to prove you? Shematayir esatameim. If a person, let's just say, so a person goes to the mikvah, it's matayir you. After you became tameh. However, they know matzel al tahirim shim tovel ba'ida tahar. If let's say you are tovel while you're pure, lo mahani le tefila shel yavel de tuma im yigachar kach b'sheretz. You're not going to remain tahar. It's like, you know what? I'm tahar now. Let me go to the mikvah now to cover for when I eventually become tameh. No, it doesn't work like that. So the adarab darshina b'sifri b'hanaygeya b'nivlasam yitma hillel omer afil hein b'tachamayim. So shema mino chaylin. So how does this araya? Let's see, maybe some of this Ran. Ta amrulo mikvah yachiach she'enu matzel. It says a mikvah doesn't help you. Alma According to Rabbi Eliezer, he should hold that the mikvah should save you from the future. Just like he says this neder will work for the future Nedarim, so too a mikvah should also protect you from the future becoming tameh. Just like he could remove the Nedarim from his wife, that were not chal. Okay, so therefore we're saying it must be Shema Mino Lu Chaylin. So we're using this as proof that the neder never existed. Because if it did, then it would be problematic under Rabbi Eliezer. If we look at the Rashi, the last 4 lines, Ein matzel adam shim yidor, lo yehi neder adam she'enu mal hatamein, af bal nami she'enu yochel hafer hakamosai, ela im kein yishlo chacham. You have to go to a chacham. Eino din she'enu mefer benidre ishto. L'chara should be the same thing. He shouldn't be able to be made for his wife. Kaidim shenadra she'enu moyel klum. It shouldn't help. Ma shehefer kaidim she'ider shlo yehi nedarim. So again, l'chara, this was the question on Rabbi Eliezer. So, and on this, as the Ran later on explains, if someone has something swallowed up within him, it remains tahor when you enter into an oil hames. So it isn't a kal v'chomer, but again, hakdisa. Each one has its own set of laws, because a davar balua then itself does protect it from becoming tameh. And therefore, let's look at question TA20, which I got totally wrong. Although matzal al tahor, because it's straight Ran, and there's a huge Ran over here. So it says a person is matzal al tahor and mulatame. It's possible that a person can be matzal something from becoming tameh. So the ez oif and iri, which is what this says, right? It says that adam ma mikvah shemalos to this ein matzal al tahor and mulatame. Right? It says it can't be done. Right? But the truth is, the Ran brings down that it is shaykh. You could be matzal. And he says, im bola tabas tahira, if you swallowed a ring, v'nichnas oil meis matzilin u'milotame, it does save it from becoming tameh. Ve'ez oifen ein mala tamein metumasan. And in what way do we say that it does not ein mala tamein metumasan, that it cannot remove the tuma and become tahor? So he says, v'im bola tabas tameya, if let's say you swallowed a ring, which is tamei of hikia, ein mala metumasa. In that situation, it's not mala metumasa. Okay, so it's totally on a tabas, tahira, tameya, which is boileya. Okay. All right. Let's just see if I can catch this around over here. Yeah, so if you look in the second medium-sized line, it says like this. Afilhim b'taychamayim. It says, even if you're in the water, afilhim b'taychamayim, adam, and this is again TA20, ein malas atamein metumasan. She'im bola adam tahar tabas tameya. You swallowed the impure ring, veikio, and you like came out, a dying to muscle out, and it still remains tameh. Eno din shlo yatzel al tahirim mulatame. Then certainly it will not be matzel on something tahar from becoming tameh. She'im bola tabas tahira. If let's say you walked into with a swallowed up ring which is tahar, but nichnas ol hames shlo yatzel es hatabas mulakabel toma. It says you would maybe think it should not be matzel. V'afil hachi matzel that tahar balua lo matama. Even though you would think it's a kal v'chomer, it's not a kal v'chomer because we know that a ring which is balua is remains pure. So he's seeing you can't learn out such a kal v'chomer. Ki hai gavna. Okay. Mimashachal kfar, what was already before. To what has not yet happened. Okay. Therefore, the haikadina v'haikadina. Each one has its own laws. V'lav bekul chumra tali. Hachinami afka the bal mefer nedarim shabolachal iser. So too, even though the husband could be remove things which already are usher, lo dainin and kavachaymer shiafar osa shlo yevolachal iser. You can't use this kal v'chomer to say, like Rabbi Eliezer, oh, it must be also when it comes to a neder which has not yet been made that he can be made for it. No, that you can't use that kal v'chomer. Just like you see over here, you can't use. You can't. The kal v'chomer doesn't stand. Let's continue. Ein vav amud aleph the top. Ema seifa. Amrul Rabbi Elazar. Im matbilin kli tamei l'taher. If let's say a person is matbil a kli, which is tamei, we know that he puts into a mikvah, it becomes tahar. Okay? So, and on this the Ran says, Rabbanan Namihu de Pirch Rabbi Elazar. Pirch Achrin is another question. According to Rabbi Elazar's question, since you can be toivel kli to make it pure, you would think you should also be able to do it now before it becomes tamei, so that it should also work. Yad gufach moidis deloy daninan. We obviously know that doesn't work like that. Ki hagavna alma kavachemer di doch leisa. You can't compare something that was to something which is. So if something was tamei already, so you can go to the mikvah and retire it. But something which is not yet tamei, you can't put it in the mikvah for future. So the same thing, you shouldn't be able to make such a hafar. That's the idea. So, imat bilin kli tamei l'tahir, yat bil kli likashiyat tamei l'tahir, that when eventually it becomes tamei, it will become pure because I put it in the mikvah before? No, obviously that doesn't work. Shema mino chaylin, but what does this show? This shows the neder is chal. Just like a kli, which will become tamei and becomes tahir from an earlier tefillah, so obviously we're talking about a situation that it does become tamei. So too over here, the neder is chal. So Ami Rabbanan lo kaimil lohain b'taimid Rabbi Elazar b'hachi karmelei my svirlach. What do you hold? This is what he's saying. Is svirlach the chaylin? We don't really have an answer one way or the other, but we're just trying to ask questions on him as the tiyofta, that we don't like his kal v'chomer. If you hold that the neder actually works, then ubatlin, and then it becomes batal tavi kli tiyuftech, then the kli is going to be a question onto you, which is this case over here. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way, as again, this kal v'chomer works, because once a kli becomes tamei, you can't say, oh, because I was matayr in the mikvah before, it was not tamei. So you can't do it for the future. So too, you shouldn't be able to do it for the future. And that would be a case indeed of it being chal. And there would be a question. But the other case that we saw before, which we said, so, and we're talking about the case where a person goes into a mikvah, so that would be a situation where it would not be chal at all, but nonetheless, either way, it's a tiyofta. So we don't really have an answer to this either way. Let's look at the Ran and we'll stop. Rabbanan nami hu depirch Rabbi Elazar. Okay, we did that. Shema mina chaylan mid amrule likashiyat tami l'tahir. That when it becomes tamei to become tahor, the iloy havi lahu lameir bil kli shiatzalam l'tamei. It should say it's matzil, like the ratio over here. By the mikvah, it says matzil. It saves it, which means it doesn't happen. That's what the language of matzil, right? Matzil is a lashon. Let me just write this down. Is a matzil of lochayil, right? It never happened, right? It never happened. So that's how we can see, again, this language of Shema Mino Lochayilin. That would be like a push-it way of understanding that. But over here, it doesn't use that language. Over here, it says that it does become Tameh, and then you could questions, so does the fact you went to make it before, does that make a tar? Which is mashma that it is chal. Okay, so very important, Ran. So on this, we don't have an answer yet, but hopefully we'll get it tomorrow. Adkan.